Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Creatives of Windsor Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Sherdown, and today I'm sitting down with local musician Max Marshall.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, so happy to be here. Absolutely.
I saw you at the Tweppy Christmas party.
Yep.
And then I was like, you got to come on. How was that event for you?
It was good. Anytime I get a chance to play music inside of Willisted Manor, I'm going to really enjoy it. I grew up in Walkerville.
Okay.
And so I've got a bit of a family connection, and even just like my childhood connection to that area. So it was really nice to be in there. Actually, and my dad was an architect and was huge into Albert Kahn. Albert Kahn designed the manor, pretty much designed like River Rouge, all the Hiram Walker stuff, and including a bunch of houses and the Monmouth Row houses. And
like all the ones that are like in fours or whatever.
Yeah, Walkerville cool. High School. Like Albert Kahn kind of like designed it all. Oh, and so my dad had a brass bust of him made, and my dad passed away about 8 years ago. We donated it to the manor, and I kind of forgot about that. And then I round the corner, and there's this like brass bust of Albert Kahn. I was like, oh my gosh, it just felt really cool.
Honestly, when you brought it up, I was going to say, isn't there a bust of him in there?
Yeah.
You brought it up.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Can we talk about that? Do we have time to talk?
We can talk about whatever you want.
I think the interesting thing about Albert Kahn is there was like all of the idea of like the coal chutes underneath, bringing coal like to the Monmouth roadhouses. There's a coal chute underneath Hiram Walker's. There's a coal chute underneath Walkerville High School, where during the wintertime, coal was like brought to the home, so you can just like open up this little door and have coal for your fire provided by the company.
Wow.
Yeah, and then when the rum running stuff happened and when Prohibition happened, those were like ways to transport liquor. Really neat.
Yeah.
And then to get even bigger with it, Albert Kahn, not only did him and his brother like kind of modernize rebar, but they also kind of created vertically integrated manufacturing with the River Rouge factory. And I think it's kind of neat that that him and his brother designed this. And there was also about 3 or 4 of the copies of the River Rouge in Russia. And then in World War II, we saw the power of that when Pearl Harbor happened, and they were able to switch from cars to planes like overnight with that method. And then the Russian tank war machine that happened through his factories. So Albert Kahn kind of also created the American and the Russian war machine that it is. And I think it's interesting that he's of Jewish descent too.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
He's sticking it to the Nazis,
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you know when Willisted was built?
1912, maybe. It's around the turn of the last century.
Okay.
Yeah. Tudor style, like, was huge and all that stuff. And
when did he die? The architect, do you know?
I think he died in the 60s. I have to look that up. Someone's gonna look that up and be like, "Oh, this guy doesn't really know."
No, it's okay. Yeah. I can look it up too. Actually, I want to look it up now.
This is a podcast about music too, I guess. Just wait, we're going to talk about music, but
he died in 42.
42. Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes it even more special, since he didn't see the end. He didn't see like what ended up happening with the
end of the war.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But he was old. He was born in 1869.
Okay, there you
So
go.
yeah, because I guess if he was working in 1912.
Yeah, he would have been
doing that stuff. Yeah, he was 73 when he died.
Okay.
Which I guess is old for back then, but not really today.
No. Hope not.
It's called Creatives of Windsor. Like, we can talk about anything Windsor history. Right. But in terms of you and your music, when did you start playing music? How old were you?
I was 7. Well, I started playing piano at 5.
Okay.
And then I knew I wanted to play guitar for my life. Like that age, 7, and I'm 40, so it's bonkers to think I've been playing for 34 years.
Yeah.
33, that's crazy to me. And I've been playing pretty much every weekend since I was like 13, 14.
Wow.
Back then it was a different time because like you had the Gino A. Marcus, like Holy Rosary, like all those punk things. You're in your late 20s.
29.
Yeah. And so you could be some like crappy little high school band and play every weekend if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
I joined a band of older kids when I was like still in high school. I got a fake ID and like played the horseshoe and did the Toronto thing. And even actually we were, California's was still open. And this was like 1999. And like even kind of before MySpace, like we were able to like phone them and be like, hey, we want to be the band on Friday night. He's like, yeah, sure. Are you guys any good? We're like, yeah, we're good. And then we show up and we're like literally 15. He's like, oh my gosh, right? And we sucked. Right. We were so bad. X's on our hands, but different time. Like you can be a teenager and somehow finagle your way into a live music situation. I don't know if you could do that anymore.
Yeah. It seems like every musician from here has like a story about how they kind of snuck in to play.
Yeah.
Which like, there's no problem with that, I guess.
No, right? no.
So when was the last time you played Fog?
You know what? I was there a few nights ago. I was going to be on that stage for Meteor, for the Frogger Fest. I ended up playing Meteor. But I went to one of Alex's acoustic open mics a few months ago.
Do you do those quite a bit? Like, do you try to go do those every so often?
I think when I'm not doing music full time, believe it or not, I'm going to actually have more time to play music. I feel like playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, pretty much every weekend, not necessarily playing the music I want to play, but 80% of it is the music I want to play. By the time the week comes, like I've got my kids, I've got like other things, I kind of almost check out socially and check out musically.
That makes sense.
But I'm in the process of becoming a teacher, so I can kind of have my summers and have my weekends and have the financial pressure taken off of me, because like doing music full time, you can still do it here, but you just feel the cost of living just like raising. That cartoon where the nose is like above the water. It feels like that for me right now.
For sure.
So I'm excited to do more open mics and that stuff when it's all about my original music again.
Yeah, when it's about fun and not about work.
Yeah.
How long have you not had a job for?
For a long time, a really long time. There's definitely been periods in my life where I've taken on other jobs, like, to make it work. But there's always been this moment where I get ahead enough with the bookings to transition back to playing. So it's been decades.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's definitely made me, I don't know. How can I say this? It's like ice. I look at it as like it's ice time, right? I want to just like log the hours in front of a mic with a guitar in my hand, and for the most part, I've been able to make an effort to have a creative medium be in flux, right? Because as soon as you start just reciting something, you end up becoming worse and worse. And so it's funny with the logging of the hours, like the 14 hours of live music every week, is if you do it wrong, you can end up worse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Just, so I've been careful to really mitigate that. So I don't feel like I'm like, logging hours doing something that's diminishing from my creative energy.
Where do you usually play? Like you played Honor Roll sometimes, right?
I'll be downtown at Honor Roll. I'll do Frank every Friday from like June until September. And that's kind of carte blanche. I can do whatever I want. Where else do I like playing? I'll play the wineries. And it's totally a scenario where I'm totally like a byproduct of my audience. Like, I feel like if I kind of am going further away from bars where people just want to hear the same old thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, where I'm tending to gravitate towards places where I can do whatever I want, which is similar to what you saw at Walkerville. I've been a folk musician forever. For a long time, the show was just like me in front of a condenser mic, and that was it.
Yep.
But I would get in my car, and I love techno so much, right?
Yep.
I love electronic music. And so I think you're seeing more of that come out when we and I crossed paths like just a few weeks or a month ago or so. And like, I'm tending to just like end up playing venues that are going to allow me to do whatever I want,
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yep. Very cool. What would you say your inspiration comes from? What bands do you like? I'm sure that's a broad question. So, cause it always changes. What bands What are your favorite bands? Nobody listens to their favorite bands all the time, but like, what are your favorite kind of bands and musicians?
I think it depends on genres. Like I've gone through so many genres. Like I got classically trained. I went to university for classical upright bass and jazz bass.
Okay.
So at that time, when I was really into classical music, the Beethoven quartets smothered me, right? I love Bela Bartok. I love some more modernist stuff. And then you can get into more repetitive, rhythmic. Steve Reich, Ioannis Xenakis is amazing. I love Mahler. So yeah, in that part, like Mahler 5, like the Adagio is like, oh, there's so much great classical music. And so then when I got into jazz, I really loved the early Miles Davis stuff, which was great, the Miles Davis quintet stuff. It kind of ended up going a little bit off the wall with free jazz. Albert Ayler, I liked that, or Ayler. Thelonious Monk, I kind of ended up really enjoying that stuff. Then when I kind of returned back, getting before that, I was really into Jimi Hendrix in grade school. Loved Jimi Hendrix. Because of guitar, right?
Yeah.
And then after jazz and after classical, I kind of returned to the fingerstyle guitar. And then I was really, really dominated by Dave Van Ronk,
okay,
Mississippi John Hurt, all of those fingerstyle guys, where you're hearing, it sounds like two guitars at once, right? Yeah. This is and it was born, like fingerstyle guitar was kind of born out of trying to emulate piano playing.
Yep. Okay.
Like, New Orleans, playing a bunch of brothels. And you know what? It's really hard for me to drag my piano around. So these guys would end up like their thumb is like this part of the piano, the left hand. And then this finger is this hand of the piano. Yeah. A guy named Furry Lewis, and also Blind Blake. Blind Blake is probably one of the greatest recorded guitar players of all time in the 20s. One known photograph type of guy. So yeah, for folk and fingerstyle stuff, that stuff really moved me. And then for techno, I like Autechre. I love what's happening in Windsor. There's so many great DJs in Windsor right now. Yeah. There's so much great techno in Windsor. The Detroit people, like everything that happened over there is really inspiring. I think that was my chronological order of musicians that inspired me, at least in my phases, right?
Yeah, I really like the crazy jazz, like where they're kind of wild, like the 1940s and 50s jazz, where like it's just really loud and kind of nuts, and it's really cool, that stuff. I like those scenes in movies, and it's people hear jazz like nowadays and they think it's like for like old people or it's calm, but like the people that were into that back in the day, it was like that was like the party music, Oh, sure.
Well, jazz kind of the thing about jazz is like in the 80s, it kind of got canonized. It kind of got, and people blame Wynton Marsalis for this, like it kind of got stuck in the education system as like, okay, like the transmission is dying because like New Orleans seems like the ground zero of jazz folklore transmission. And then like, the 90s were great for like jazz getting sampled for hip hop, right? Was huge. And the old guard, like, no, didn't like that. So Kermit Ruffins is a really great example of a New Orleans player that was kind of like, I'm trad, I'm old fashioned, but I'm also like getting sampled, and this is the way it has to be. But there was also this moment with jazz where it's like, no, we have to preserve this. And as soon as you canonize something and turn it into an educational tool, classical music happened with classical music too. It kind of gets super dry. Like you don't get that transmission anymore.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's still transmission with jazz. Like it's still growing. It's America's classical music. But yeah, that's, I think, why it got boring is because it's like, okay, you're in grade 10, you're playing the trumpet. Here's So What by Miles Davis. This is the scale they use. Like, it's an educational tool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why it sucked the life out of it a little bit.
Yeah, it's not as like loose. Like, I'm a big fan of, like, my favorite author is Jack Kerouac.
Oh, yeah.
And like him and Neil Cassidy, they would go to a lot of like they were wild, like doing crazy stuff, like revolutionary
in like the 50s still, right?
The late 40s, early 50s, and they would go to jazz bars, and like that was like it was all black musicians and people. Like they were the only two white guys in there, and it was just like a crazy party, and like that was like where the real music was.
Yes.
And then then obviously like it evolved and grew from there. But back then it was like these small venues, and you probably saw people like Miles Davis in places like that. And
sure.
It's really cool.
And I think the wildness of the music I'm not like an authority on jazz history at all. Like I know there's probably some jazz people being like, you're pushing it. But like, I think like a lot of that free jazz and a lot of that stuff was almost a reaction to like, here comes Whitey taking the art form again from African Americans, making it nice and safe, like Benny Goodman, even like into the 60s, like Take Five, Dave Brubeck. Like there's a lot of kind of mainstream, polished up, easily palatable white jazz, where at the same time in those clubs, that free jazz, it's like, no, you can't take this away from me, this expression. And I feel like we heard people go more atonal because it's like, try to take this from me now,
Yeah.
Ornette Coleman. I feel like, that happened with blues, that happened with R&B, that happened with jazz, that happened with so many different, I feel like that music got stolen until maybe hip hop. And then hip hop maybe was like the first time where black artists got properly paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. It's
and stayed the front of it.
Yeah.
Even though there is people that kind of came through.
Yep.
Eminem even sings about it in a song.
Okay.
Like that he's the current Elvis, like stealing music. But he like isn't like they were back then.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
He's super aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if it's those art forms got really out there just in a more of a, within a reactionary element to it, That's just me hypothesizing.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly, but it seems like that music has stayed they've been properly paid and attributed for their music, but I guess you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Usually these things come out like decades later.
That's right.
It seems like hip hop and like rap has been popular for quite a while now. It's been a couple decades of it being like almost the most popular genre, right?
A generation finally. And even techno is around the same age. Yeah, it's interesting seeing these art forms almost a generation away now.
Yeah. I wonder what's next. What's gonna be the next big kind of music thing, right?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like it's truly been devalued, right? People can go back to Napster days and be like, oh, it got devalued, but with the file sharing, sure. The industry didn't know how to react to that. And even with the file sharing of like Napster days, it's like the record industries were so predatory anyway. Mm-hmm. Like how can you contain people's music and be the tastemakers and then sell, it was so monetized that way. So it was almost like Napster was a free break from it. But now it's like, now we've got Spotify, right? And it's like, it's so tricky navigating the artistic, how do you promote yourself? It's content. Okay, so like Spotify, but like that guy's got like a bunch of like Raytheon stocks and Lockheed Martin. Like he's investing into big military, right? Like it's like there's so much money flooding the other way, and I don't know. I feel like, but at the same time, I feel like this is such an important time for artists. People will look back at these times decades from now and say, "What was happening?" I feel like we're living through our own 60s, right? COVID, and then just the rise of neo-fascism, authoritarianism, the oligarchy, like Bernie Sanders is like, it's been an oligarchy. It's already that. And we're living under all of this where art is just diminished and diminished and diminished into such commodity and such like free stuff. I'll tell people when they release a song, it's like, I'm going to release a song. It's like, I've made this really intricate model boat. Now I'm going to go down to this really quick stream and some of my friends are going to join me. I'm going to put that boat in the stream and off it goes. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that boat cost me $10,000, right? But I guess I'm rambling here. To round it off with your question, I think now is such an important time for artists to be completely individual, completely original. Like, there's no illusions of grandeur anymore, no one's going to get rich, doing this. Like the fame is gone. And who wants the fame? That seems terrible. That seems terrible to have that much attention on you.
Yeah, it seems like you can make a living doing many types of art with the help of the internet and things. Like, as much as some parts of that suck, I think with the help of the internet, you can make a living doing art and not be famous now.
Yeah.
Right.
And just be present in a community. I look at Stefan, like Datsun. Like I kind of look at Stefan as like the gold standard of how to do it right. Like he's like super, super talented, humble, original, doing something interesting, has a crazy work ethic, understands how to cut through. And so I look at someone like him and be like, okay, like this is how you do it, you know? But even still, like we're still all just parts of our own individual musical communities, right? Like I don't know, like even friends of mine, like doing the folk thing. It's like, oh my God, you opened for like, I'm already screwing this up. My buddy opened for Sarah McLachlan, but he had to like pay to play. Okay. Like there's a lot of pay to play. Okay. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that get up to that tier where it's like, hey, can I open for you and set up my merch? And like, it's when people get huge gigs, I would like to believe, oh my God, you're doing it. You're like rising up. But I think a lot of it too is like, there's already such a monetized firmament of stages that it's like, yeah, people pay to play those big gigs that seem like really like a break for them, right? Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. What are your this is totally we're switching topics. Let's do it. Kind of. What are your favorite venues in Windsor, like past and present? Yeah, Fish Market. Where was that? That was in the Loop complex. Oh, okay. Yeah. Which floor? That was on the first floor. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that was on the first floor. There was like Loop, and then obviously Pogo's Coach and Horses downstairs, and then like Fish Market. Fish Market was awesome. They had like Ryan Fields came in and set the sound in this one moment. They ended up getting like a new board. And this board, like they sent a guy to the moon with less. Like it was so huge, and it was like that's different. But like there was one moment in that room where it was just perfect. It's set perfectly, big windows behind it. I loved playing the Fish Market. That was like Hula Dog days. That was like kind of early 2000s. Of course, Fog, right? Of course, playing the Fog, which I've had for years, and I'm gonna miss that room. I feel like Ian has Meteor sounding really good right now. Like, and I feel like Meteor feels Loop-ish. Like it's dark and it's elevated. It's on the second floor. It's got like terrazzo in the washrooms and stuff like that. And I like Meteor. I love the DH, of course. Like we'll do the soul delegation at the DH. Uh-huh. And you know what? And I love about the DH is that like literally like every generation that's alive in Windsor right now would be like, oh, the DH, right? Like it's it's been a bar that they've all kind of gone to. I went to a show in the basement there about 10 years ago. Yeah, they used to do shows down there. Yeah. Oh, like punk shows and grimy. Yeah, it was like metal for sure. Oh, yeah. Even the Loop, like I never really went there. I went there with a fake ID. Like it was kind of just before me. It probably closed when I was like 20. Okay. But never really like I didn't start going to places for shows until I was like 19 when I started going to shows. Yep. And so it must have closed like right around then, you know. Okay. So like I didn't really get to go to that many shows there. Like the beginning of my like show going to experience was like TBX, Fog, Milk. Yes. Other great rooms. What was the place upstairs on Olette? And then Judd Lidke bought it and turned it into Higher Limits. What was it called before? Was it like Venue or? I forget. It was like, but that was a good venue too. Yeah. Like I remember going there. Yeah. But yeah, mostly like TBX a lot. And like for me, so like you're talking about these places, like you played all these places. For me, it's like I shot photos in all these places. Oh yeah. Interesting. You know, like coming up, like when I was starting, I did a lot of band stuff and I would always shoot, you know, local shows. Great palettes in all of those rooms, like great grimy palettes for you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My favorite place to shoot is probably Fog. Yeah. Especially if you're using a flash because the ceiling's low and like it's kind of white. Yeah. Because, like, those things are all painted. They were once white. But they're kind of what, like, I don't know. The flash does really well in there, especially if you're using a flash. But, like, yeah, shooting, you know, I kind of started shooting in those places. And then I started shooting other places. And
Yeah, no, those are my spots.
It's funny because Windsor, like there's been music happening here for generations. Like even, I forget what it's called now, but there's a room called Menards, and it's like tin and terrazzo, right? Same with A-bars. I miss A-bars. There's so many of these cool little spots. But I mean, that's the scary thing, and Toronto's experiencing it too, maybe everywhere across the country. We got to save the dive bar. We got to save these grimy holes in the wall, because it's all about property ownership and who's like the one in charge of it. And so we saw that happen with, there's a blues bar where Craft Heads is right now. That was called Aardvark, the Aardvark.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Classic, dump. Like, I loved it. Like, I want to smell urinal pucks while I'm like on the stage. Maybe I don't. Yeah, that's pure nostalgia talking. I actually don't want that.
Yeah, because the Craft has like the Aardvark beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's like I wonder I think we're like ramping up for the new generation of like what's Windsor Eats and Fog and Craft Head's gonna be in that spot.
Yeah.
There's another cool kind of dive down the street, Curly's.
Oh yeah,
like the
Curly's
Irish place.
Is great. Yeah,
That place is cool.
Yeah,
maybe
that's another old room.
Maybe we'll start walking over there, after shows and during shows.
I think so. And, and like, no matter what is never going to change is we're in that corridor. We're in between Detroit and Toronto. Like, people are going to travel through. I think that's what Sean Vandenberg realized and why he's had the success he's had with bringing crazy people to town. Same with in Chatham, is like, they're driving through anyway. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming through. Like, it's like, we're so geographically, we're so lucky to be where we are, because even with the casino, like I remember one night I was playing like an original show and trying to get some friends out, and they're like, "No, I'm so sorry. Like, we're seeing Stevie Wonder at the casino tonight." Sorry, Stevie Wonder's playing down the street. Sorry. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I get it, right? But even in the county, like there's some banger shows that happen at the Harrow Legion. Like there's like shows like, I don't know. I feel like we're in a unique area. And even in my travels in Canada, Windsor, Essex has a lot in common with St. John's, Newfoundland. If you want to play music 7 nights a week, you can. Mm-hmm. You can barely survive as an artist in both places. And that's probably going to be a different conversation 5-10 years from now.
You think for the better or the worse?
It's going to be for the worse. Everyone's going to have to get a day job.
Yeah.
I hate saying that. I honestly, like, and for so long I held out and I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I want to do. But even for me personally, I feel like the perks have slowly turned into the burdens. I don't want to be in the bar every single weekend. I don't want to be up until 6 a.m. every single weekend, right?
Yeah.
It's not conducive to a healthy life. I want to play my music. I don't want to fucking play Hotel California. Right. I don't.
Sweet Caroline again.
Yeah. I don't really play those songs. I mean, I'll play like Desperado and Take It Easy because I like the early Eagles, but so like I'm having this sea change, and even Rick Rubin's just been in like the algorithm lately because of his book, right? And he had a good one where he's like, don't do your art full time because it's not going to be the art you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like you're creative. You're a self-employed creative. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
split down the middle.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
Well, and you still make beautiful books. You still do all of the stuff you need to do, and you're obviously not stifled at all in your creative visions. Right?
I don't make money on the stuff that I like to do.
Right.
And that's where the difference is.
Yeah. Same.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. That's not a lie. I'd make some money doing the stuff I want to do, but only just because, like I don't try to or need to make money on those things.
Yeah. Right.
Which is where the big difference is.
Oh yeah.
I almost look at that stuff as like advertising for my other stuff. And
it's kind of going to be creative projects you're probably going to want to do anyway as a person of like a creative person. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's real growth for us. Yeah. You know, that California book is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah. I saw that, and that's in, let's do a plug for your book. I initiated the plug. That's what bookstore? It's in
Indigo and Lakeshore.
Yeah,
Indigo. But buy it from me because they take like 50%.
They're like the LCBO of books.
Yeah. Juniper has it.
Okay.
And so if you're gonna get it, and so does Urban Art Market.
Okay, there you go.
And Biblioasis has my old book.
Okay.
Those stores are all local and they take like a very low cut anyway. Right. Like I pretty much make the same thing if you buy it from me, if you buy it from them.
Okay, cool.
So that's really cool.
Awesome.
And then from my, like I sell them obviously.
Yep.
But then Indigo, like, they have it. And it's really cool to have it in there. And
Sure.
they've been like really supportive of like me locally, which I like. Like I did like a book signing there.
Okay, yeah.
And it was really cool.
It's great. And it's good.
But it's a big store. Like they have to take a big percent. And that's kind of just how it is.
It's almost like the pay to play for the big shows.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you're on the shelves in Indigo. Yeah, bro, I'm getting like $2 for each of those. Like, thanks for your congrats.
It's
but
more to say that it's there than than to have it there, you know.
There is no winning.
But honestly, like I said, like I don't like. I'd rather get the book out than make money on it, because like I do it for me. I just want to share it. I want to share my work.
Yeah, that's it, and that's what it's all about. And because then the creativity stays, the transmission stays. You know, nothing's worse than stagnant art creation. And I mean, any creative thing is insane, because like you can have great people who are so talented convince themselves that they're terrible, and then you can have terrible people that are convinced that they're like the best. It's wild, the psychological ramifications of creating art.
If you're good at making reels on Instagram, you can be a really good artist, right? Like,
But
then, you know, like if you're good at making them and they get good engagement, you could be not that good of an artist but be really popular online.
That's so funny, eh? And there's a difference. There's a difference, right? I feel like people are going to look back and be like, no, where's the real stuff? I feel like as the more we get into, you know, augmented reality, I mean, we're already kind of living in an augmented reality with how the algorithms on our phone work. Like, you know, the definition of an insane asylum is everybody is in their own world all at once in the same room, right? And I really hope that like the tech industries get reined in, and the algorithms that we choose to have are the algorithms that we can have, rather than this pipeline into insane beliefs. That's my personal opinion.
Excuse me. The water went down. No, I think that like, the whole phone thing really kills it.
Yeah.
Even like being a fan of art, I always find like it starts locally, like here, you know, like everybody kind of supports each other, and like you said, like maybe you don't want the fame, like maybe it's good to just be
part of a community,
kind of chilling and
be part of a community. Yeah.
Part of our community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you about your singing. Did you start singing because you had to?
Yes.
Okay.
I will recite the words, hopefully in tune. I'm not a singer. I can sing, but yeah. And I love writing folk tunes. I still love writing songs.
You sing because you don't want to just make instrumental music.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're a musician first. Is that kind of, you know, and you want to play?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's funny because like we're living in a town where there's some badass singers, man. And people are, they're just like, and that's, and I will never compare myself to that. Right.
You're a really good singer though.
I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, thanks a lot. I
like somebody who's really like a musician at the core. I always find like the singing is a secondary thing though.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels that way. And, you know, I think like, I can sing along with my guitar solos. I feel like singing is still a really important thing, because even if like with talking like shop with guitar, like if I'm teaching, I teach privately, and pardon me, guitar, it's like if piano is like a ruler, like the guitar is like a graph, and like the patterns. Let's say if you're wanting to play like in a minor key and be melodic, here's this one pattern you learn, the scale, and within that you can like do all this melody making in it, right? But like guitar players get stuck in the scales, like guitar players get stuck in like the well-trodden patterns, right? And so when people come to me and say like, I'm stuck in the patterns, which happens a lot, then like the way to break out of that is to sing your solo, right? Sing a melody and then transcribe it, or learn how to sing along. Like everyone needs to check out the early George Benson records, because he was, and he was like with every note, right? So that's a challenge, and I can do it. Maybe sometimes too much. But like, I feel like singing, even if you can't sing well, that connection to your human voice is going to like do wonders for any instrument that you're working on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you, when you make a song, do you write the lyrics first, or do you make the music and then make the lyrics go with it? Or
it's tricky, because it's almost like everyone's got their own formula. and they want it to almost seem totally seamless, right? And that's really hard. And I feel for me, what I'll do is I'll kind of come up with like a guitar part, and I'll find a guitar part that feels like I never want to be like, I'm going to write a song about this. And because it's like, well, it doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
You're going to compromise. You're going to like start shaving shapes down to fit like a certain thing. Can't happen that way. It won't be natural. For me, I'll start a guitar thing, and then I'll kind of just sit with it, and I'll just like get out of its way, and I'll just kind of wait until it kind of indicates to me what feeling it is, what vibe it is, right? What it's about. And from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find like a vocal melody that fits my voice. At that point, I might be going up and down with the capo to try to find a key that works. And I'm going to find a moment where my voice feels like I can really sing along with it, but also with the melody I think is really interesting. And then I'll kind of reapply, what's this thing about? What's this about? To the melody. And sometimes it comes right away, and sometimes it takes like, it could be years, right?
Do you sing random words at first before it makes sense, or no?
Yeah, you know what? I'll honestly, depends on where the words end up in the melody, because there's some words where you can really be like, the light. But yeah, like there's some words where your mouth is opening up, where like the words are open. Yeah. And you can really like sing those, and then there's more closed words. Like no one's singing the word cornered really like with an open throat. There's words that shut your throat down.
Yeah.
And so like I find like you will almost have to like pick and choose what words you use depending on where it is in the melody.
Okay.
And then I'm almost looking at syllables. Like if I have a melody that's da 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 da, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 syllables there.
Yeah.
What's going to fit there and make it sound natural?
Okay.
You know, I don't even know. You know, it's just one of those things where you just almost like, I've had the best luck getting out of the way of the natural process. Yeah. We all have the creative process deep inside of us. And the more we try to manhandle it, or the more we try to like be in control, it doesn't work, right?
Yep.
The same with what you do. You just let it flow. You get in the flow state, and you let all of these hours that everyone's just like put into themselves. You know, people forget that those hours are still at play. This idea of 10,000 hours to be a pro, like, yeah, but people forget that those 10,000 hours stay with you. That's your creative process.
Yeah.
People can't get out of their way of their own 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Kobe could. Kobe Bryant, the thing about him that I loved was it's like, he got his 10,000 hours in before he finished grade school, because he knew no one would ever be able to be as good as him, because he just logged those hours. But he was so natural. He never stifled his own game, because he took those 10,000 hours and got out of his way and just let them occur. You know, the best art happens that way, I think.
Yeah, I always used to like when you're starting out, you're in those first 10,000 hours, as you say, you're trying all kinds of different stuff. I'm definitely beyond 10,000 hours now.
Sure, of course.
And I always used to like, you're trying so many different plans and things to make stuff work. And like, I used to plan out shoots or plan out this or do that. I'm talking about my personal work right now.
Yep.
And I'm kind of at a point where I just like to go for a walk.
Yeah.
I just go for a walk with a camera, and just whatever happens, happens.
That's right.
And I don't fixate on things anymore. I try to have fun first now. And I'm like, I take this once, and instead of taking it 16 more times, film helped with this because you can only take it once.
Oh.
But I would just take it with film. I'd take it one time, and that's it, because you're not going to spend more money on doing it again.
I love that.
Because I do tell myself, I'm like, most likely I did it the perfect way the first time. And then every like 100 pictures you'll take twice, because it's like a banger of a scene.
That's like Chris Rock's bit where there shouldn't be gun control, there should be bullet control. Like if one bullet cost like $10,000, there would be no like innocent victims. It would just be the health CEOs.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like, you know, that's a great, you know what? That's so cool. Like film, so expensive. Yeah, you just kind of get forced to go with what you have.
And not only is it expensive, like I would go, like I mostly shoot when I'm traveling. Yeah. So I'd go out to California. I only have like 15 rolls of film. So I can't take a picture of every, because I need to, you know, it was hard to get film for the last 4 years because of COVID.
Okay.
You can get it now, but you couldn't for a while. Like,
interesting.
I would get back from a trip. I would go on a trip every like 3 months to shoot. So I'd get back, and when I sent it off to get developed, I would order the film.
Okay.
And I'd get it sometime within a couple months, and then I'd have it all for the next trip. I just kind of do that on rotation.
But like, you look at the world different when it's not indispensable. Mm-hmm. Your process is going to be, that's really interesting.
You take an extra second and then you only need one shot.
I feel that
really nice.
way. I feel like the musical equivalent for that for me is like recording onto tape. I did my EP on a spool of tape, and there's some, little flaws in it, but people can't forget like the flaws are going to happen. Like, I don't know. I like, we're in a place now where everyone expects all of their art to be so flawless, right?
Yeah.
To look flawless, to feel flawless, to sound flawless. Oh, I kind of hate that.
I've recently gotten away from that, just recently. And it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And it's a lot better. And when you look at the greats, it's never flawless. Like the stuff you love the most, like, is it ever flawless? Not really. Like the best photographers I know, I'm looking at their stuff and like there's like little technical things that are wrong, but it's like the greatest photo of all time, and that doesn't matter.
I love Diane Arbus. Is like one of my favorite photographers, and there's some overexposed, but like it adds
crooked.
Yeah, it adds something to it.
Yeah, like it, and none of those, you can't do those things on purpose.
Yeah,
because it won't be right.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. I do this with my clients a lot. So I'll be doing photos, like engagement or a wedding, and we'll do blur on purpose.
Okay.
And I always tell them, I say, when I'm doing my personal work, I'll never do that really on purpose that much. Like I'll shoot with a slow shutter speed, but not as tuned as when I'm doing it for a client. Like, we'll make sure. Of course. But I always tell them, I say, it's going to take a few minutes to get this because it's hard to make it look like it wasn't a mistake. Like, like there's a difference between like it was intentional and this guy just screwed it up, and there's like a fine line there.
But you can tell, like even the average person, I feel like, can tell. And that's the tricky thing about like photography, art, like all of art, music is so subjected to like the mass public, like the public. It's like we can have our intent, but I think it's hilarious how someone's like, nope, that sucks. And it's like, yeah, but what do you know? Well, I have my opinion and I'm alive. I'm conscious. So, I just think that's hilarious how like all of everyone's art is like really judged like wholly by like people who shouldn't be in a position to judge it. Right. But yeah, that's kind of funny.
Like, and I'm sure it's like this for music. Like for me, like when I look at photographers' work, there's like new photographers that are all kinds of different styles, but I always like try to think about like the old ones, like the OGs. Like one of the OG photographers, Henry Cartier-Bresson.
I don't know.
That'd be like listening to the Beatles.
Oh, cool.
And like, and when it's like, yeah, that's the Beatles, so he's kind of like the Beatles.
So I'll see his photos and other photos, be like, oh, it came from this guy. Is that type of thing?
Yeah, and just like, I don't know, it's not perfect, but it is kind of thing, and it's just like, it's like its own thing. It's like really unique. He's like the reason why everybody takes pictures the way they do, and why like every deck, like it comes from him and a few others. Can
you send me this link to this guy?
Yeah,
I want to see it.
Have you heard of Magnum? It's an agency.
No.
He created it with Robert Frank. No, okay. Robert Capa? Robert Frank? I don't know, one of the two.
Robert Capa's the war photographer, right?
Yeah, that got blown up by stepping on a mine.
Yeah, right.
So it was him, Bresson, and like two others, and they started this agency. And this is like before photography was considered an art. They were shooting in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s. And people didn't see it as an art back then because it was only like 30 years old, right? Like it was pretty fresh.
Oh, weird.
And because like people really didn't start taking pictures till like the late 1800s maybe, right?
Right, okay.
And then these guys had like smaller cameras and would like travel the world and go shoot kind of like we do now.
Wild.
But like they didn't have anybody to like look up to like it was them. So anyway, they started Magnum, which is still around today. And everybody that's a member of it is also an owner of it.
Okay.
And they own all the rights to their work.
Oh, cool.
So
okay.
Every photo they take is 100%. They own all the copyright.
Okay, yeah.
And then it's part of Magnum, and Magnum's who publishes the books for them and does the art shows but they all run it together. They vote on everything. They vote on new members. So,
and it's this OG, like not conglomerate, but it's this OG thing.
Yeah.
This group.
Like these, like 4 or 5 photographers started it.
That's bizarre to think that there was a time where it wasn't an art form. That kind of blew my mind. Photography was only 30 years old and people didn't consider it an art form. Like,
Yeah.
What?
Because I like from what I've done research wise, I would say people really started taking pictures in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then by the 30s, like I'm like, man, like where did this guy like get his inspiration to go around and do this stuff? Like it's so cool.
I feel like there's like that eureka moment that we all feel where we're like, oh, like this. There's something about this. I feel like. I don't know. I think that's so important for all of us, right?
Yep.
He must have felt that. Yeah. He must have said, there's something to this. I feel like that really transports us back to a time in their life, in our lives that we forgot. Like, I feel like childhood and being really little, there's all of these little eureka moments, because I feel like at that time, even with my own kids, like sometimes your imagination is so overwhelming, but we're so in tune with it. We're so in tune with stuff that when we were younger. And I feel like those eureka moments kind of almost like bring me back to childhood a little bit, where it's like, oh, and there's this giddy feeling too, where you're like, oh, there's something to this. Like, you feel that. You've experienced that, of course.
For sure. You know, it's funny. You said people didn't consider photography an art, and you think it's funny. So they didn't. So, okay, photography is an art now. Yeah. It's the 60s. It's an art. Color's not. You can't shoot color.
Oh, yeah.
If you shoot color, it's not art. Because color just came out. It's not art. Artists don't shoot color. They shoot black and white. So then what happens? Obviously, there's a photographer who goes and does it in color.
Who is that?
Stephen Shore.
Okay.
He's one of them. There's a few. But Stephen Shore is one of my favorites.
That's hilarious.
And he shoots through the 70s all around like the States, even in Canada.
Okay.
And he shoots contemporary landscapes, which is what I like to photograph over the last few years, which is just like daily scenes, but like it's a little bit like it catches your eye.
Okay.
Like just an average part of life. And he did it all in color.
Come on.
Which, like, when you're doing color, you're looking for the colors.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're doing black and white, you're looking for the story. So it's really cool, and they didn't think that was art, and now that's art.
That's bizarre.
And then what's not art now? Digital.
Yeah, right. And that's so funny. Like, I love how out there's like someone starts shooting color, and there's some like sepia, like no, it has to be only these colors. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just like music.
Yeah, just like music. Well,
hip-hop's not music, but before that, rock and roll wasn't music.
Well, and that's interesting you say that, because I feel like, I know Spotify's a dirty word, and I agree it is, right? But algorithmic listening, like streaming, like people are listening to new music all day again, or maybe for the first time ever. I think that's really healthy. Like, before, like, and there's like definitely generations out there where like the only songs they know are dad's records and the same 30 songs on the radio.
Yeah.
And they're usually the same. That is usually the demographic that if they don't recognize the song, they think it's shit. Right? They need to recognize the song. That's not how it goes. Oh, that's not how the song goes. It's because they've been fixed into this. And now it's like, I think like with like listening to new music all day, I think that's really healthy. And I'm seeing it change in the audiences. Like if I play for an audience of like people under 30 or even under 25, they know the Beatles, they know Roy Orbison, but there's just so much more music for them to pull from. And I can kind of get away with doing what I want to do more, like even the techno thing or the beat driven thing. I can get away with that more. But then if there was like a bunch of like, and there's 55 to 65-year-olds out there that are pretty cool, and I'm not talking about you, but like, if I play it to a room of those people, and if I do that for longer than 6 minutes, they're like, where's the words? Right. But there's some people that don't want to hear like 60 songs be sung to them. Right. Like, it's, I don't know. It's interesting. The listenership is changing. And even with digital, sorry, I keep ranting, but even with digital, I totally respect digital, like photographers being like, meh. But you know what? I bet like some kid getting a digital camera and being able to take 1,200 pictures and finally start to get it, that's worth something, right? Like, yeah,
it's, like for me, like what's like someone as a photographer, like what's the difference? A great photo is a great photo. Yeah. It doesn't really matter anything else. It's just, is it great or is it not great? And what it was shot on is kind of irrelevant.
Oh, sure.
In my opinion.
Same with music. People go crazy. Oh, it's like, I want to record in analog. And then you say like, why analog? And 9 out of 10 times they'll say, it's just warmer. It sounds warmer. It's like, are you really though? And anything that's recorded analog gets like converted to digital anyway, right? Mm-hmm. Like before it gets manufactured. Like, I don't know. It's interesting what people tell themselves, right? You know?
Yeah. Especially for me shooting on both, I've really learned that it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
The greats are the greats, and that's it.
I mean, I think like you taking photos, like you said, with the limitations, and it's a machine. I feel like that might be a higher art. And same with someone recording to a spool of tape for it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like using like more analog machines, like I feel like it seems like that's part of an instrument. Like I bet like you would look at like if you had like a film camera, that's an instrument you're playing. Mm-hmm. Where, I mean, a digital, I'm sure it's the same thing, but it's maybe just, I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I right?
I don't know. The thing that film taught me was, that different process. And now when I shoot personally, I shoot digital in that same process. So I only take one picture of everything. Okay. And I just do it the same way I was doing film. Okay. I don't know. For me, like the tangible aspect is what kind of makes photos real. Like printing it and framing it. And whatever it was shot on, film or digital, I still print it and frame it, right?
Of course.
And then putting it up and showing it. I've always done that since the beginning. I've always printed my work and like, as you can see.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
And I always like, when it's a good one, I have to print it and frame it. Because that's the end. It doesn't die on.
This is the final step. Yeah. Well, and it's neat too, because it's like when paintings are on the wall, or even if music is just like in a space, it's so associative. Like you feel like, I'm looking at some really beautiful old cars, and then like as a whole, I'm also like now kind of like considering what they feel like and how they contribute to the room, rather than me just going like this, right? Like, it really has that effect, right? Yeah. We're in a really cool shop here. Here's the address. It's at 123 Fake Street.
That's funny. I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Yes, please do.
About your most recent album. Yep. Is the actually just want to pull it up here so I can like actually ask you some questions about it. Mm-hmm. So it is called the Greenhouse one, which is called Songs from a Little Greenhouse.
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah.
And when did that actually come out originally?
2000 and my son's 2015. So I would say 2012, 2013.
And then what did you do? What did you do in 2021?
I kind of like re-released it. Okay. Because I'm like, I might as well just kind of put this thing back out there. That's been my short, is like creating records and putting them out has been hard. I feel like for me, I'm at best in a state of like playing live. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with what I want to do now, which is like make techno with an acoustic guitar, what I need to do, and my next project, what I do want to do is with recording, is just like start recording every single live thing and stitching the real magic moments together.
The Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Record everything.
Just record everything.
And give it out for free.
I worked at a butcher shop, and my buddy was like a huge Deadhead, right? And he put together what he called the Chronological Dead, which was every single record, every single bootleg, like in a big playlist. It was like 2 months of listening.
Yeah, no shit.
And there's some moments where it's like wine, where it's like, this year they were very good, but this year it stunk big time. Like you could just hear it get good and get bad.
They record, like now they record every single show from start to finish and put it on Spotify when it's done.
Okay, that's cool.
Every single one. But they've always pretty much done that.
Yeah, I need to do that. I need to badly do that. You know what? This interview, talking about my records, made me realize I need to release some more music.
Yeah. Because when was the last time you put out a new record?
Probably that. I mean, there's a few. Oh, man, this is weird. Okay, so I recorded the whole album during COVID with Aaron Goldstein in Toronto, and he's amazing, and recorded Hutch, recorded the Brandies, I think, too. He's recorded all these guys. And I'm sitting on that, and I have that, and I kind of like...
You haven't released it or anything?
I released a few singles.
Okay.
And I did a few things with Craft Heads where we like released, like had like them make a drink, and then there's a QR code, so like people were forced to buy it, which I thought was smart. But you know what's so funny is I feel like I will record something and then just be like, you know what, I'm kind of over it, and then never release it. I did that with a whole other EP called Songs from Windsor or something like that. And literally like maybe a few of them were out and I'm like, nah, I'm kind of over it.
So I finished my book. I finished my book last year, and there was some stuff going on. My wife said, "Why don't you put it out next year?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Because I won't like it anymore."
Yeah.
I have to put it out now, or I won't put it out.
Yeah, I think I really suffered from that, and I think too, it's like even during COVID and even before that, like when I was touring a lot, and I would like release a little album to like sell, you know, or a cassette. I released a cassette, like, you know, with some new tunes on it just to sell. I feel like they're almost like, okay, I got to do this because I have to have something to sell people when I'm touring. And I feel like I would end up doing that a lot, but yeah, I'm really lacking on like the releasing. And I feel like even during COVID and then COVID finished, and I'm like, is this the kind of music I want to be releasing? Do I want to still do folk music? Do I still want to do this? And I feel like naturally, like getting more into electronic music or live electronic music, I feel like my heart and soul is kind of in a better place where a release could be possible because it's just more like in me. You know what I mean?
Do you think you'll do something maybe kind of soon then?
I have to.
Yeah.
I have to.
Cool.
I have to. You've heard it here first.
Cool. Okay. I want to ask a question more for me. So on that album, Songs from a Little Greenhouse.
Yeah.
The most popular one, do you know which the most popular one on Spotify is?
No.
It is Damn Some Jam.
Okay. Yeah.
What's your favorite song on that album?
What's on that album again? Honestly, maybe Well Wishers. I was actually at Mark Calcott's cottage, and it was one of those moments where you're just kind of sitting in the woods, and like something like the lick came to me, and I felt like the lick was a byproduct of my surroundings, and that kind of came together really easily. So maybe that song, but honestly, it's so tricky because like once in a while I'll play and I'll have someone come up and be like, bro, play this. I was like, oh my God, like some of these tunes I've forgotten.
Oh, of your own. That's cool though.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I'll go up to Sarnia and there's this little contingency of guys that will come up and be like, hey, can you play like all your music from 15 years ago? I'm like, yeah, sure.
I remember it.
If I remember it. And I think that's really neat. But
that's really cool.
But honestly, it's like, it's hard for a snake to slither back into its dead skin, right?
Yeah.
Like I have no connection with it. It was a time and a place. Even recording stuff and being like, do I want to release this? Meh. Like I'm proud of the one I released during COVID, Everything They Know About You, and I'm proud of that one. I think it sounds beautiful, and Aaron Goldstein did like an amazing job, and that was a song that really came together in the moment. So there's definitely tunes, and even Craft Heads, there's stuff that I released with them that's not online that I'm proud of. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's out and it's done, and I'm past it, and I need to kind of on to the next, even though there's definitely pockets of music that I've written and they've never seen the light of day. Yeah.
On Rick Rubin, John Mayer says that he loses it too. Like he's not the same person that wrote Your Body's a Wonderland.
Absolutely.
But now that song isn't like it was at the beginning. It was like him in that moment and whatever. But now when he plays that song, like he doesn't see it in 2005 anymore. He sees it like kind of like it's evolved like with him, and he plays. It's a different song now than it was, or something like that.
I mean, they would have to be, right? Yeah. Like even just like bands getting up playing their famous stuff, like you would have to have some sort of relationship that continues with this stuff, you know?
Yeah, like it has to change for you even though it's the same for everybody else.
Yeah. And then someone covers it or something like Buckwheat Zydeco covered Beast of Burden. And I feel like some songs are written, or even like Johnny Cash covering Hurt. Like there's just some other people suddenly that sing it and you're like, oh, wow. Like this means so much different. Like Buckwheat Zydeco singing Beast of Burden. He's like, I'm an old man, but I can still do it. I've still got the riz. Like I still got it. You know what I mean? Like I love hearing other people play songs and almost like make them better. Like I feel like will try to do that with some covers, or even take some covers and kind of transform them into new songs and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like having the continuous recording sessions every single time I play and snipping together something with like guitar based like electronic music, but I don't even know what the genre of that would be. What would that genre be? Like even you heard me like at Williston Manor. What would you call that? You can invoice me. I want to know. You can consult.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's just like real music, I guess.
It's hard
it's really hard to say, but maybe it doesn't need to be anything.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need to think about, who cares what?
It doesn't need to be anything, man. It's just real music, right?
Don't think about what the genre is and just make what feels good.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it is what it is after.
And I feel like I'm onto something with that, because it's like, oh, it's this. There's something about this.
Don't put it in a box.
Yeah.
I do that with my photos too. I'm like, what? This doesn't go with everything else, but it doesn't need to go with everything else.
It's weird. Like even we're talking about like putting our 10,000 hours in and having that creative process, us getting out of the way. But at the same time, it's like, it's hard to like, you ever have that moment where you're like, I rely on my scrutiny, but like, am I wrong? Like you question, I'm like, this sounds good, but is it bad? You know, is this good? Is this bad? Like, is this like, what is this? Like, I feel like sometimes my scrutiny can get really misplaced, and then I just left without really knowing. I need someone else's opinion sometimes, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah.
All these, like, we're talking about the struggles with every process of like making art in different areas.
Yeah.
It all comes back to is like, you never know at all. You can never know. You just have to do it. And you just wonder like all these like little things, and nobody can ever tell you like what, because if you knew an answer to any of these questions, then art wouldn't be like what it is.
I know what you mean. It needs to have a je ne sais quoi really built into it. It needs to have a peculiarity.
Yeah.
Peculiarity. It needs to be like, oh, what's going on here? I feel like that's the cool thing about good media, like a good like art, is that like you're like, whoa, what's happening here? You know, you feel something right away.
Yeah.
And even if it's super subliminal, and even if it's super buried, I love that.
Like a hit's a hit, and nobody can tell you why, and nobody can tell you how to make one.
I'm one of these people that like, if I finish a show, I'll get into a car and like just either drive in silence. I don't listen to a lot of music.
You don't? Like in general?
In general, I don't listen to a lot of music. I'll listen to like micro house, like really minimal tech stuff, which I love. It's the mantra of techno, right? It's like you know, if spoken word like spoken languages has like semantic satiation. Like if I say chair 50 times, it's stripped of meaning, right? But like the mantra effect, the opposite effect is like repetition can grow in strength, right? With music. And like, so I can really get fed into that. But aside from that, I've been listening to this one song on repeat for maybe since like August, The Barrel by Aldous Harding. And it's like a folky tune, but I've listened to it maybe like hundreds and hundreds of times, and I don't know what it is. There's just something about this one song that I will like binge repeat a certain song to death.
Yes.
Until, you know, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of my listening, is like either like super minimal techno or this one song.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's that's really interesting to hear what. Yeah, like I don't do music, but I'm a huge fan of it. So I listen to it all the time, you know?
What are you listening to right now?
Right now.
Or in general, what's your favorite stuff?
My favorite stuff is 70s jam rock for sure.
Okay.
That's like, in my opinion, the best music of all time.
Like, Yes is in there.
I'm a big Deadhead. They're my favorite band.
Yeah.
But like the Eagles, the Allman Brothers.
Yes.
I love Marshall Tucker Band.
Yeah.
I actually saw Marshall Tucker Band this year.
Oh, really?
It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen.
How old is he?
So he was a sergeant in Vietnam. That's how old he is.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So
and he still kills.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So if he was a sergeant in Vietnam, that means he's probably a little bit older than like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, or about their age.
You know, music, it's funny with maybe just art in general, but specifically music, like you can do it into your old age, you know? And you know, I look at like Kelly Hoppy, I really look up to Kelly Hoppy, and like, I kind of want to be like, I tell Kelly, and Kelly, it must be in his 60s. I say to him, like, I want to be just like you when I grow up, right? Like, you know, super fit, put together, no addiction, humble, talented, played the world, did all that stuff. Man, I really look up to people like that. And it sounds like Marshall Tucker's the same way. Really put together old guys.
Yeah, but they all sang. Like the lead singer didn't sing every song.
Okay.
They were kind of all singing.
Well, then it's different then, isn't it? No,
it was a real jam concert. Like they played for an hour and a half. They played about 8 songs in an hour and a half. So like every song is like 10 minutes.
Oh, I love it.
And they, you know, it's funny, like playing the hits, like you said, like they played their probably only big hit, which is Can't You See?
Yeah, Can't You See? That's right.
And they did it as their encore, which has probably been their encore for like 100 years. But it was so good. They had all of us sing it back to them like a million times.
What venue?
It was at, what's it called? Detroit Music Hall, like right across from Ford Field.
Oh, cool.
It was beautiful in there.
Come on.
And he's just like, again. And we did like the, Can't You See what that woman's been doing? And again. And he's like, again for like 6 minutes. And everybody got like louder and louder as they screamed it back at him. It was really cool. My wife and I were the youngest in there by like 45 years. It was awesome.
So what's your favorite era of Dead then?
Like said the early 70s.
Do I need to get the chronological Dead? Do I need to give a zip drive to you? It's funny. Usually I'm teasing about that, but Anthony's like, what?
I like Europe 72, which is like most people's favorite record. Like they toured Europe and then they record like the recordings from that tour. Because like a lot of their biggest songs aren't on any albums, right? So you have to listen to a live recording of like their like most famous songs, right? And like that album typically has like the best sounding ones of those songs. Okay, cool. But like there's 350 the other ones you can listen to.
I like American Beauty, Working Man's Dead. Like that's you know what song I'll do like Friend of the Devil, obviously. But you know what song, if there's a real Deadhead in the audience, and next time you're in my audience, I'm gonna play it for you. Oh shoot, what's it called?
I can't help because there's 500 songs.
New Freeway Boogie or something like that.
New Speedway Boogie.
New Speedway Boogie. Yeah, I'll do that one.
Okay, and that's a real song.
And usually the Deadheads would be like, "Oh my gosh, that song!" Like, because that's a great tune.
Yeah, that's on an album though. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, that's on Working Man's Dead. I think.
Yeah. So like my favorite songs that aren't on albums is Brown Eyed Woman, which is probably their most popular. That's not on an album. Cassidy. The other one
about Neil Cassidy.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. The song about Neil Cassidy is the other one.
Okay.
And he talks about him driving the Merry Pranksters bus.
Yeah.
Cassidy is spelt different than Neil Cassidy's last name.
Okay.
I think it's about one of their daughters. It's the name of one of their daughters. And then what else is like one of like the best like rock songs, like the best like rock and roll breakdown is in Tennessee Jed, the guitar in that.
Okay, I don't know.
And that's not on any albums either.
Oh man.
See,
I'm just trying to be like the Dad. I'm just not releasing any albums. I'm just playing live.
Just playing live, yeah. So they did a residency last summer at the Sphere in Vegas.
Okay.
And they're doing it again this year.
Oh man.
2 back-to-back.
There's nothing to Sphere but Sphere itself. My aunt and uncle went to see the Eagles there.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like, how much does that thing cost to run?
No, right?
Like whereas at a Spitz game with my son, and like I'm like, how much does this place cost to run? It's like, yeah, how much does the Sphere cost to run? Like,
yeah, it's conducive to the ticket price.
But there's only like 16,000 seats in there.
Yeah, there's not. It doesn't seem like there's
a lot,
much.
Right?
No, I think we're gonna fly out and see it this time.
Oh, are you gonna go?
Not going last summer.
Can you bring a camera in?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But like, yes, I can because you have your phone.
Yeah, that's right.
It seems like even if you didn't like the Dead, like that'd be the band to see there. Like all the imagery and.
Well, you know what's funny? There was this argument on Facebook a while ago about like what's the true American band, and I feel like the Dead was like, I don't know, like there's just psychedelic Americana, right?
Yeah.
Do you like Flying Burrito Brothers? Graham Parsons, as I think, is that on your radar? Mm-mm. Graham Parsons was supposed to be in the Rolling Stones. I think he like was also like possibly the one that wrote Wild Horses.
Oh, okay.
But he was like kind of like a psychedelic American. So when the Byrds did when the Byrds like, I don't know, like kind of stink in 60s. Oh, so chimey, 60s chimey stuff. But then when the Byrds did Sweetheart of the Rodeo or something like that, that was like Graham Parsons that came in and made it like psychedelic American rock.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll
because the Byrds, that's Europe. They're from England. All of them, right?
Yeah, that's right. But they did like a kind of a Americana album.
Yeah.
And it was like Graham Parsons was the guy. Yeah, it's interesting. Like American culture. Like they really do have a little bit of culture, don't they?
Wild Horse is a great song. Actually, in Old and in the Way, do you know them?
Oh,
like you.
Oh man, David Grisman. Yeah, that's a great record. I'll do Midnight Moonlight. Yeah.
They do Wild Horses.
Oh, yeah, they do. Okay.
And it's great. I think Jerry sings it.
Okay.
I think I got to
like
listen
David
to it again.
That's a great record. That's like bluegrass, psychedelic, like bluegrass.
So who's in it? There's people from a couple bands.
Yeah, I don't know. That's such a deep bluegrassy.
They're like you. Like I would use them to kind of like, if you like them, like you might like this guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. No, Old and in the Way is a great record. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's Midnight Moonlight. I'll do that one. Man, there's so much good music out there. Maybe a group, this might be too jazzy, but like there's a guitar player. Oh man, just edit all of this. Me just like trying to remember. It's okay. Danny Gatton. And Danny Gatton is like one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived. And he was in this like group called the Redneck Jazz Explosion. And it was like kind of like bluegrass, kind of jazz, kind of like late 60s, early 70s of that kind of like, that would be in there too, a little bit too.
Okay.
Yeah.
To answer your question you asked 25 minutes ago, I do like I like a lot of like newer stuff too, like a lot of folk music and things.
Yep.
I obviously was into like a lot of grunge stuff too.
Yep.
And then like even pre like 70s jam rock, like I like a lot of 60s stuff.
Yep.
I love Jack White. He's one of my favorites ever.
Oh, sure.
Do you like Jack White?
I do like Jack White. Yeah. I got to see the White Stripes in London, Ontario years ago. And man, that guy tore the house down. I saw the Raconteurs at Lollapalooza, and they were the loudest band I've ever seen.
Really?
They were so loud.
Wow.
That you had to go, and they have all these big 70s like gear, right? Everything's old. Yeah, I was like halfway. I was like where like the Married with Children fountain was, where like halfway at the park, and I was still like, whoa, this is still a lot. Like, yeah, I like Jack White.
That guitar that he plays a lot, like that big clunky thing, you know what I'm talking
Hagstrom?
about? How old is that? Is that like 50s? What is that?
I think it's probably newer, but it's probably designed similar. It might be a hollow body guitar. I think it's a Hagstrom.
Okay.
Yeah. Those can sound really, really huge. I mean, that guy, just even the intro to It Might Get Loud, him making that guitar out of the string? Pretty neat, right?
I love that movie.
Yeah, he's done a lot for Detroit, even just like Third Man. Like, when was the last time you were in there? Like,
I saw a Japanese female trio there in April.
Oh my God.
They were on their 25th reunion anniversary tour. They were like a punk band. So they were like, they were probably about your age, 3 women from Japan.
Come on.
In a punk band. It was amazing.
Oh man, I bet that's sick.
It was so sick.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting too is like Hamtramck. Shout out to Hamtramck. Like so much of that Detroit revival garage rock happened there. You know, White Stripes, 1998, 99. They're playing these little the Von Bondis, the Gore Girls. There's a really great old school Detroit band called the Gore Girls, which I highly recommend. And we went there in grade 9 to some shows in Hamtramck, and
that's cool.
And it was really cool. Man, Detroit is such a wild city for all of that stuff. You know, birthplace of Motown, birthplace of techno, birthplace of rap. I mean, obviously there's other cities that did that, and I'm no authority in saying that. But like, there's just so much. We're so lucky to be here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we really do pull so much.
You just
stuff.
see a lot of, most people, like, you're not going to skip Detroit on a tour, big or small.
No.
You don't miss your favorite bands very often.
Yeah, but you're good. You go to shows, like you go and you like participate in like going out to concerts and stuff like that.
I try. I do a lot less now that I'm older.
Right.
Than I did when we were younger.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we stay in more than we used to, but
that's right.
I try to, still go and do things like,
yeah.
But like, I don't know. I have, like, for me, going out is like, it's inspiration, it's networking.
Yeah.
It's just, it's good for, like, from like selfishly, it's good for me, like in my work and stuff, to just go out and talk and interact with people.
Oh, of course. Well, you drum up work that way. You can make contacts happen.
Yeah. And even just for like, like just going to and talking to, and like even just being out, like I ran into you and then I asked you to come on, or I go to Fog and I talk to Tom for a minute and now we got a show coming up.
Yes.
Like, it's just, it's good for me to go out more than just like being there for just like my wife being there.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
She's tired because, she worked all day and she wants to go home.
And now you're off like talking to someone and you'd be like, can we get the heck out of here?
Yeah.
Are you almost done? Well, I feel like too, the beauty of this size of a city is like we have medium-sized Canadian city, but like look at how small like the scene is, right? Like you can really network well.
Oh yeah,
here,
it's perfect. There's enough stuff to do and go around. There's enough people, but it's not like over flooded, and you can kind of know everybody.
Yeah, totally. Like Toronto, or like I feel like there's. I don't know. I like it here. I moved away at 25, and I'm so happy. I mean, I live in the county now. So, but
still part of the scene.
Yeah, sure.
It's the same scene.
And even just, and you know what, living in the county is great because like no one can roll up on you, and like you can just like drive in a straight line and not have any red lights for like your whole life. And I love living out there so much.
Where did you move? Did you move to Newfoundland? Is that why you brought that up?
I lived in Newfoundland for a bit, Toronto, Montreal for like half a summer, but lived in Newfoundland for a couple of years. I have family out there.
Oh, that's cool.
And then when kids came in the picture, lived in Ruthven, lived in Harrow. I'm in Kingsville right now.
Nice.
So yeah, I like it out there.
Yeah.
It's the pace. It's, I don't know, man. I just love the openness. Well, you're a landscape photographer guy, right? Like, just the huge openness of it. It's like rural Canada. There's so many Canadas all at once, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I'd love to live out there near the water.
Yep.
Because primarily I surf out there on the lake.
Cool. Oh, you could surf on Lake Erie?
Yeah. Where do you live in Kingsville?
Like on Mill Street, so like across from like Jack's and the cop shop. And
okay, I surfed at Cedar Beach on Monday.
Oh yeah. My girlfriend used to live on Cedar Beach.
Yeah,
that's a great little spot. So you could surf there.
On Monday we surfed.
That's a great little beach.
Yeah.
You've been to Polish Beach Club?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you surf
there? No. So where can you? So you can surf at Colchester and Cedar.
Yeah.
And they're like. They're all right. Like you can get up on the board, it's fun. But Hillman next to Point Peely's really, really good. Like I would love to live in one of those houses right there because it pops off and it's like good waves, like really good. But Erieo's the best. Erieo's like really, really good, but less frequent. So like Colchester and Cedar, you can go out like every couple days,
right?
Especially like in the winter.
Yeah.
But it's not as fun.
Okay.
Erieo's like once or twice a year, and then Hillman's a little bit more than that. But in Port Stanley, you can go out a couple times a week and it's really good. But that's obviously not in Windsor, like Essex anymore. Like now you're in London.
Sure. That's weird to think that there's like a Canadian Southwestern Ontario surfing scene.
Yeah, there's like 5 of us.
Maybe like there's going to be like a doc like Lords of Dogtown eventually, just about these 5 surfers.
Yeah, it's gonna be done by me because
yeah, and funded by me too.
Yeah,
and watched by me. Yeah,
and that's it. There's me that surf here. There's me, my best friend Dave, this guy Lloyd, the surf guru.
Okay.
And then there's this guy Anthony that comes out. There's a couple other like floating around that I don't know their names, but it's mostly like us.
That's wild.
There's a couple guys that live in Erio that surf. And then there's a few in London that surf.
Have you ever gone like down like California and stuff
all
like
the
that?
time.
Yeah, you've gone there.
Yeah, that's where I like learned how to surf. Like
you spend a lot of time out there?
Yeah, California a lot.
Did you live there?
No. I feel like I do. I go at least once a year, but I try to go a couple times a year.
Where do you recommend like going in California?
I go everywhere, but my favorite place is probably like Venice.
Okay.
But I just did Ocean Beach, San Diego for a whole week and I didn't leave because I've been so much now I don't have to travel around anymore. I can go to one spot the whole time.
Yeah, now you know
like
what you like there, right?
And like the first few times you try to see as much as you can because you're there.
Right.
But now that I've been so much, like I've already seen it all, so I can like just go to this place for the whole week and just relax more. But I love being on the coast, but you know, the parks are great too, like all the national parks.
Oh man. The whole like continent's so bookended, eh? Just like East Coast, West Coast. Like I'm not saying anything bad about the prairies. Well, I probably could. There's a lot of derelict cars on the side of the highway in Saskatchewan.
I've never been to the East Coast.
Yeah, fly into St. John's. I feel like it's like people say, I'm going to go to the East Coast, then they up in Halifax.
Yeah.
Which is like just
the middle.
Yeah. Which is like just I don't know. Halifax is.
I want to go to St. John. You can surf there too.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Halifax has the best surfing though.
Okay. So we'll give them that.
That's not true. Vancouver Island has the best surfing in Canada.
Okay. Yes.
And then Halifax is number 2. There's a lot of pro surfers who live in Tofino.
Okay. Yeah.
There's at least one that lives in Halifax, Dean Petty.
Okay.
And then St. John's. Like I know you can surf out there. It's on the ocean. Like you can definitely surf out there.
It's there. Yeah. It's really cold and clammy but with those islands, I loved going to BC to tour, and just the I don't know. BC is like the California of Canada. Would you say so?
Yeah,
you got
sure.
You know, actually, it's funny because Miller Hill, the journalist.
Yep,
you know Miller?
Yeah, I know Miller. Yep.
This is pretty funny. So we get out to BC, and like for the entire tour, me and like my tour partners were like shotgunning Hey Y'alls, like Hey Y'all the vodka iced tea, right?
Okay, yeah.
And everywhere we went, we're like, hey, let's shotgun a Hey Y'all, and so we're kind of like forcing Hey Y'all shotgunning on people, and then like so we get to 100 Mile House. And Miller comes out of nowhere and he's like, I'm here to like write about the show because he was like doing journalism there, right?
That's cool.
I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Do you want to shotgun a Hey Y'all in the alley? He's like, okay, sure. We go around and it happens, right? And we come back and we start talking and we both find out that we're both from Windsor.
And you didn't know him?
He's like, no. And he's like, I'm from Windsor. I'm like, that's why you shotgunned a Hey Y'all with a stranger in an alley in the middle of the interior BC. And he's like, yeah, maybe, right? It was very funny, right? And then
was he living out there at the time?
Yeah, he was doing like some journalistic work there.
Okay.
I think he moved there for a job. I believe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think he works for the Windsor Star at the moment.
Yeah. We don't. Him and I don't know each other super well, but only good exchanges, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, to keep going with that story, the Hey Y'all shotgunning ended up in Lillooet, and Lillooet's like tumbleweeds and bleached cow skulls and stuff like that. It's like, you know, the vistas, red rock vistas, the Old West. And there's a lot of moonshine happening in the interior. And so we created a drink one night where as you're shotgunning a Hey Y'all, there's a shot of moonshine that gets dumped into it. And it's called a Fuck Y'all. Sorry. I'm sorry.
That's so funny. Okay, this is kind of what I want to end it on.
Yeah.
So you're gonna record something?
I have to now.
Yeah.
You're kind of telling me I have to, and I'm going to listen to you.
Do it. So now, what is that? You don't have to get super into it. What's that process like? Like, if you decide you want to start recording something now, when are we going to hear it?
Probably never. No. Well, I would probably have to integrate it into my live show, start listening back, start listening to what's good. I think really what I got to do is I almost have to like either have this polished, finished thing. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I like Instagram. I think social media has some serious badness to it, but like I love Instagram. I feel like I can almost see myself releasing it as reels or releasing the audio as posts, and then like obviously having the audio somewhere. Would I like put it on Spotify? Probably, but I think the best bang for your buck as a player is to like try to license it or do video games, put it in video games and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Music licensing is like probably the correct way. That's like Chrissy. I kind of looked at Chrissy and Mike Hargraves, Chrissy Cocker and Mike Hargraves about that, who like, you know, have the co-op going on, which I'm a part of. And like, they're like super, super, super on all that stuff. And so that's a good question for me to be like, I was told I have to record something. Okay, what do I do? And then, but I could see myself almost like releasing it like bit by bit, little fragments and little chunks, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
What? Okay, now I have to ask you about this. What is this co-op? What do you guys do? What's the co-op called?
Yeah, the Soul City Music Co-op.
Okay.
And so Mike and Chrissy run it, and it's essentially a hub for creatives to get some guidance on how to promote their stuff, how to release it. There's some cross-promotion benefits that happen. I know like the Bishop Boys are in it, and Britt and Scott Friel, who am I forgetting? Chrissy and Mike, obviously. So there's that, but there's also once in a while we'll do a show. It's on my Instagram. We did a really, really beautiful show with Fourth Wall Music. Essentially Austin DiPietro like arranged all of it, and we each chose a song to like sing with strings. And did it at the Capitol live. I have a post of it on mine. So that was a really memorable show. And Amy Lay, who like runs Fourth Wall Music, passed away just recently from cancer. So that's super sad. She was a member of the symphony and a harp player. And so that's a really tragic side note. But yeah, I would say like those opportunities are great, and everyone released a really beautiful song, recorded with some strings, which I thought was pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yep.
Okay, so when you record, if you record this, will you record it in the studio, and do you do all the instruments yourself?
Yeah, I think I would probably have to record it all live.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to. There's just so much going on, and I feel like there's like moments where you're like, oh, this, right? Like, I love the live. I'm playing enough live music for like there to be like little moments. And then, you know what? So yeah, it would be all me kind of treating a looper like a live sampler.
Yep.
You know, and building tracks on the fly and kind of going with it and seeing where they go. I think I want to keep it to that. I've done studio stuff. I did the score for Six's doc, and most of that was techno based. I was kind of resampling. Every episode had a musician who released a vinyl record, and so the score is me resampling that vinyl record, like as like the songs for that episode.
Cool.
And that was all done in studio.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was good. It was really fun to work with Six and kind of challenge myself to like resample stuff and do a score that way. So I had the capability of doing that in the studio and stuff like that, but there's just something about trying to record it live, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
I think that's the correct way.
Yeah. I had Six on to talk about the doc too.
Oh yeah.
Like
nice.
when it was coming out.
Yeah.
Which was like
last spring? Last spring?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Feels like it just came out.
I know, it's that intricate, beautiful boat. We bring it down to the stream, off it goes.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a good talk.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was good.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to us. Sweet.
Yeah, that was great.
You guys did great.
You guys are still here? I thought you guys left.
Okay, now get off those screens.